Kyle here from All Media Reviews. Trying to get a quick video in here, but I just posted on um, the posts page, not community page, and Blue Sky that want to do a Wolves Lakers post series take, and then also the Rock Hall reaction. And I'm hopefully, if I have time, do some of those other videos talk about the Rock Hall list that I made, and then the record store day stuff, and some other things. I am getting to be getting, I think, the Jake Allen order that I put in last week in the mail. So could be coming today. So maybe tomorrow I'll be doing the collection thing. I don't know. We'll see. But just this video is specifically about the Timberwolves, the Wolves, defeating the Lakers last night in Game Five by it was like 103-96. Ugly game, but Rudy Gobert they utilized him really how they should have probably throughout more of the series. But it was partly to do with the way the defense was playing, partly to do with other guys also doing well. But yesterday, I mean, the shooting percentage was 7 for 47 from three. Kind of speaks for itself. I don't know Anthony Edwards, some of the other guys like Dante DiVincenzo, why they struggled so much. Julius Randle's it can't be understated. He's sort of always been like second fiddle, and throughout this whole series, he's probably the most consistent player actually. Even though he got in foul trouble. Well, that was the thing yesterday. McDaniels and Randall got in foul trouble. But I also just you watched last night in the series, the Lakers their depth showed, but also Luka Doncic looked he didn't look right. Although you look at him last year in the playoffs, even in the Wolves series, and in the Celtics series after that in the finals, he always just comes across as being gassed, fatigued, um, hurt, or always just getting pushed around, getting fouled. I think some of that's just sort of his demeanor. Some of it is the condition he's in, but he manages to do it with his shot making and his footwork. But I was thinking though about this today, and I thought about this last year maybe. How many sort of one-way players have actually won an NBA title? Like, how many times were the best player on the team that wins the NBA Finals is not a two-way player. Steph Curry's really the only clear-cut example. I mean, Giannis is a defensive player, but most of the guys, Jordan, I mean, Shaq was effective defensively because he was so big and he could block shots and he's a rebounder. But Kobe, Jordan, LeBron in his prime when they did win, Duncan, Garnett won whatever the one title and they went to the finals two or three times. Kawhi Leonard. Most of the guys are two-way players. Luka Doncic is not a two-way player. He manages to rebound, but he needs to put more effort into his defense. But I just like his health problems where he was sick in Game Three, like had gotten food poisoning or something, and it still carried over to Game Four, and then the whole minutes thing in Game Four. I, I mean, the Lakers stayed in the games, and in fairness to the series, they other than really Game One to some extent Game Two, every game was pretty close. Last night the Wolves went up by I think their biggest lead was like 27-11. Most of the game it was like 8 to 10 points. Their lead was so this game was close. And other than like the Game Three and Game Four, um, the Wolves didn't have anyone who sort of stepped up at crunch time. You could say Gobert, you could say even I guess you could say Randall, but I don't know. I'm not surprised they won. I'm not surprised they won in 5 games, actually, just knowing the Lakers' makeup. But to add to that, there is something to be said about the way 40-year-old LeBron, although he gave good effort at points, it just, he was running out of gas. The amount of minutes he played, I think the Game 4 minutes draining kind of carried over to Game 5 because the Lakers were like out of sorts in the beginning of the game in Game 5 last night. Um, I mean that had a lot to do with it, the depth too. But then certain guys in each game did step up for the Wolves. But I also feel like the Wolves. I mean, they Game 1 they played really well for the most part. Although Randall had 7 turnovers, but as a whole they did. Other than that game, they really didn't. They didn't have like a lot of their guys really. I mean, DiVincenzo specifically his shooting was just surprising, and even Nas Reed until the fourth quarter. I'm hoping going forward, like in the coming series, whether it be the Warriors or the Rockets, um, both and or those guys or Alexander Walker. I wish he would still use, especially Jalen Clark, but I don't know. It depends. It depends on the matchup and everything like that. But I mean, the other thing about last night, why the game I think was close, besides the fact the Wolves' shooting percentage was so putrid, was the fact that you had McDaniels and Randall for a point in foul trouble. Even Gobert was in foul trouble. I mean, Gobert was great, although, and they did throw him the lob a few times. A lot of his points came off rebounds. He does get fouled, and unfortunately, his free throw percentage, while it's not like exactly Shaquille O'Neal, like less than 50%. And they did, that could have also made a difference. I'm glad it didn't ultimately factor in the result, but there are a lot of cases where the Wolves missed free throws. They only end up shooting like 15 out of 21, which isn't like awful, but it can make the difference. You need to make 80% probably in a close game to have that can make a difference. And some of it's fatigue, of course, but I just feel like the game, like they won the game, they won the series, but I don't feel like they played exceptionally well. They had certain guys that played well, but I also think playing the Lakers partly to do with the makeup of the team and that whole thing with the minutes, partly just to do with and like the depth. They're just not that good beginning to end. I mean, Hachimura had 23, I think it was in game four, so he's actually, I could say he did sort of compensate. And Austin Reeves earlier in the series had played well. He didn't play well last night. Austin Reeves, though, he's a guy like some of the Wolves guys, like DiVincenzo to some degree, where if he's open, he can beat you. But if you put a guy on him, he's a he's not I just think he's decent. I don't think he's ever been an all-star. He was on that select team that Edwards was on in the summer of 23, but I mean he's not like on a championship team necessarily a third piece unless the team's still deeper. He's probably a fourth or fifth piece. Like if he was on the Wolves, where would he be? He might not even start. Maybe. He averaged 20 a game, but I think that was partly to do with when they got rid of Davis and the other guys. He needs someone else to score more. But anyway, um, so they're gonna play the Warriors or the Rockets. My guess it will be the Warriors. The Warriors are still up 3-2, even though the Rockets just every game's been like blowout one way or the other. But the Warriors, while they're not as sort of thin in terms of depth as the Lakers, they have a similar kind of like makeup in terms of they're smaller and they're older. Um, Mike Conley's older or whatever, and Rudy's not exactly young, but yeah, obviously Steph Curry's like 35 and he's still very effective. And Jimmy Butler's about the same age, so both those guys. Draymond Green's not young either. Um, and they don't really. I mean, Reed, Randall, and Gobert. I don't know if the Warriors have. They don't have that. They're more of a. Especially when they got in the Butler trade. They played basically, unlike the Lakers, they basically had the same record as the Wolves. They may have even been a game or two better after they made that trade for Butler. But the Wolves will have the home court advantage if they do play that. I don't know how much that really means, but the fact that the Wolves are also going to get this rest, it will be to their advantage if they, either team they play. They were to play the Rockets, the experience factor, both from a players and maybe even coaching standpoint, would be to the Wolves' advantage. Obviously, the Rockets, though, are the two seed, so they'd have the home court. Um, I would guess if they played the Rockets, the Wolves would probably still be favored. The Warriors is almost a pick 'em. Probably the Wolves likely in either series. There's a good chance they could be favored. That doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, but the Wolves seem to do better when they're not favored. So if I was picking, I guess I'd have to see more of the series. But if I was picking, I would guess that I would probably still pick the Wolves, but I think either series could go 7 games unless if the Rockets series, if they end up playing the Rockets, I think that if the Wolves overwhelm them, kind of like they did with Phoenix, and again the experience factor, because what Rockets did play well down the stretch because they got the 2 seed, but I think they were kind of feasting on poor lesser opponents to some degree. That what the Wolves should have done that didn't always do against your Utahs and Washingtons and what they lose to uh, Indiana missing a bunch of guys and Milwaukee missing a bunch of guys. But I don't know. We'll see. I think Edwards at points has improved. Like he's risen his like even though that he was not no bueno. He wasn't very good in crunch time during the season in several occasions. He seems to sort of like take it personally, and if they play the Warriors, especially the Jimmy Butler and even Steph thing could kind of translate. Now, again, what happened last night? He was like 5 of 17 from the floor in an important game. Not that it was a win or go home like a game, but it was very important for them to win that game because then okay they come back for game 6 and coming. I don't know if the doubt would set in or whatever and the momentum shift. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll find out he was sick or he did get in a collision with LeBron at one point, but it's just his jump shot wasn't going. I feel like him and DiVincenzo both, especially, and Jaden McDaniels actually. Those three guys, even Nas Reed to some degree, when their 3-point shot is not going, they need to try to emphasize to take shots at the rim or mid range, or trying to throw lobs, or trying to getting backdoors, that kind of thing. Um, and they do it some. Last night, using Rudy more was part of that. But I mean, it's not like the Lakers' defense was suffocating that much last night. Were they playing desperate? Maybe a little bit, but I think the fatigue was impacting their ability to play defense at all. But um, of course, the officiating is frustrating to watch because it's just like, and if they play the Warriors, Steph and I don't know about Draymond Green, but Steph and Butler probably will still benefit from getting calls. Um, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be kind of a media frenzy if they play the Warriors. If they play the Rockets, it's going to be more in the down low. The other bracket, it looks like it's going to be Oklahoma City and could be Denver. Denver's up 3-2. It could be if the Clippers come back. Personally, I'd like to see the Clippers come back. But Denver and Oklahoma City would be interesting because they were fighting with the Wolves and them last year at the end of the season in 24. So they're kind of rivalries in some, but they didn't face each other in the playoffs. I would probably still pick Oklahoma City in that because they played so well, but it would be interesting if Denver won against the Clippers and then they end up beating Oklahoma City, and then if the Wolves end up playing were to win the next series, they'd have Denver and them in the Western Conference Finals. I don't expect that to happen. Granted, I'm impressed that the Denver's managed to win 3 games. They could win up to beating the Clippers because the Clippers were playing really well going into the playoffs. If the Clippers were to win, I don't know. It would be interesting because you'd have Kawhi Leonard and Harden, who are both older, especially Harden, but they're seasoned veterans. You have Powell also, and some other guys on the Clippers that are good against this Oklahoma City team that's been so good all year. And they had won one series last year, but they would still be pretty. They would be underdogs of the Clippers in that series until someone really tests Oklahoma City. I mean, the first round series against Memphis wasn't really much of a test. I mean, especially when Ja Morant went out. So someone needs to test them because I mean, sometimes you have teams that are so good. You had that Warriors team a few years ago, about 10 years ago, that was so good, and then they end up, getting up 3-1 on the Cavs with LeBron, and they came back. But I mean, if the Wolves don't end up advancing after this round, I want to see Oklahoma City play a really good team and see just how good they really are. Personally, I think it would be Cleveland, but Boston, of course, the other side. I think it's going to be one of those two teams. Unfortunately, as much as it would be great to see for drama sake, the Knicks and the Wolves, but the Knicks need to beat Detroit still. They lost, but to see Cat, against Randall and DiVincenzo against the trade, kind of that would be such a media focus if they played New York. Tibbs, of course, being the former coach of the Wolves. Um, but if I had to guess, if I was predicting my projections, I would probably have to go with the Celtics still because they won last year and they're playing really well. But um, so Celtics probably in Oklahoma City if the if the Wolves don't make a run. I don't know. We'll see. It's fun to watch. The Wild, of course, play tonight, kind of up against the wall, 3-2 against Vegas. Um, Two straight overtime losses. The goal that got removed because of the offside, which was barely offside. I swear, like the offside rule, I never paid attention to the blue line so much. It was always you can't be past. You can't be past the. You can't have a player past the last defender. But I might be more thinking of like football, soccer, or European football, international football. But um, yeah, it's too bad. I mean, they either bounce back or this completely deflates them. I hope they bounce back, though they could end up still win. They could win tonight and then losing game seven. I was in the contention, even if they would have won game five in Vegas, they could have easily lost tonight because of the whole, up against the wall thing, because they beat up at 3-2. But like the best players for the Wild are better than the best players for Vegas, but Vegas seems to win the shot count in the attack zone when I'm watching often. And they're bigger, they're not quicker, but they're bigger, and and also Gustafson. He went out after the second period, was sick or something like that, and then you had Fleury. Um, you know, he played well and got him into the overtime, but I don't know. It'll be interesting. It's fun to watch playoff hockey, though. It seems like a lot of the games go into overtime. They go late. At least tonight's game starts at like 6 or 6:30. It's earlier, but but anyway, that's pretty much it for my take on the NBA playoffs. I will try to do a Rock Hall reaction. And I want to do the Rock Hall list I made, but that's probably for another day. I don't know. We'll see later if I have time and I'm not dealing with distraction slash interference from the neighborhood activity. Is supposed to maybe rain later this afternoon, so that could be beneficial. But on Monday, it was supposed to do that, and it didn't happen, even though the southern part of the state got it. We had like tornado potential. Tuesday I couldn't do anything because I had to go pick up my mother-in-law, and yesterday I had to bring my car in, so it's been one thing after another. Thursday, at least today, maybe tomorrow I'll have more time to do this stuff. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.